here's Mike Huckabee.
Have we got a show for you? I'm not sharing nothing.
This is heaven here.
Absolutely fantastic.
I love you.
Is there a Democrat in here?
It's pretty incredible.
What we have to do today is, I think, first of all, breathe a sigh of relief that Israel and America's policies on behalf of it are going to be in good hands. Congratulations. This is something that, like you said, it was, Uncle Sam pointing his finger, but I think God was also pointing his finger and saying, this is a big job and I need somebody to get there and get after it. Next year in Jerusalem. We'll see you there. But the other part of this story that I kind of wanted to do is rewind the clock a little bit. And a lot of people remember the Huckabee Show on Fox, okay? So Saturdays, you were our guy. You were our non-combative host. You didn't yell at people. You didn't, scream and yell. You had an audience, you played some music, you were a little bit different. You've always been a little bit of a fish out of water in regard to news broadcasts. And you ran for president. You ran for president in 2008, then again in 2016. Somewhere along the line, and I'm going to call it 2011, my dad just had to meet you, okay? He was watching you and your broadcast on Fox, and kind of pointed and said, if we were ever going to get into this news commentary thing, he's the guy. Well, you were happy at Fox, and somehow we ended up at a steak restaurant. Laurie, me, my dad, and you. We're in New York. It felt like that conversation was, what do you remember about it? At some point?
Well, I remember that we sat down and visited. There was no agenda per se. It wasn't like there was an offer on the table, and I wasn't in the position where I could have accepted it had there been one.
Right.
Because I was under contract with Fox for I don't know how long at that point going forward. But we just had a great fellowship. I won't call it a visit because it was Christian brothers getting to know each other as much spiritually as it was politically or in some form of television industry terms. Your dad was a remarkable man. I really, really loved being around him. He was brilliant, had such a business savvy to him, as you obviously know, saw things in the future that other people weren't seeing. I think he may have seen somewhere out there on the horizon a Huckabee Show on TBN. I was not at that point in a position where I could see it, but I think he did. And I remember it was just a sort of a general discussion that if, for some reason, that I ever were to sever the relationship or discontinue doing the show on Fox, just give him a call and let's see what might happen. So there wasn't any attempt to lure me away, nothing like that. But the seed was clearly planted.
You know what I want to make a note of is if you take the world according to 2024, 2023, 2024, we're, even 2025 now. And if you kind of take some of the things going on in the world, and then you wind back to the time we had that steak dinner in New York, it was like a different planet. In a lot of ways. And there are just some things that society has tolerated. Feels like some of it is, not being tolerated as much anymore, which feels like good news from a biblical standpoint. But my dad, you got to remember something, Mike, my dad wasn't really about beautiful sets like this. He wasn't about, the production value. If you're a little out of focus, if the lighting wasn't exactly right, if your mic was, kind of scratchy, if he didn't care much about, he didn't care much about any of that kind of stuff. It was a different world back in 2012. So I'm picking up on what you said. Maybe he was seeing into the future some because if we were there to meet you, and if there was this unspoken agenda that, hey, if you're never at Fox, give us a call kind of vibe, which I concur, that was kind of the feeling. There was no offer. There was no, you know,
Well,
at some
even
point.
him wanting to go meet somebody was super uncharacteristic of him. You know, it was like,
Yeah, to get him on a plane and fly him across the country,
He
and
didn't
that
care.
was a little unusual for us. And so, but think of it, he knew what kind of show you had on Fox.
Yeah.
And he was seeing the need for it then. What are you? Common sense. What are you? You're explaining things to us that are really complex political matters that you break down and give us your take on it. And he saw that coming. Now, he never saw your show on TBN. He was gone before.
Oh, I think
ultimately,
he saw it from the best seat in the
He
house.
watches.
when
Yeah.
He
the
watches
signal
every
went
day.
shooting
There you go.
past heaven. Yeah,
Yeah.
got it. Okay, I agree with you.
Okay.
But at some point, you know, we got together when the end of the 16 campaign, and here we sit today again, 378 shows later, 1,134 guests, and 63,000 people have sat in your audience here. The show started in 2017 with a bang.
Here's Mike Huckabee.
Have we got a show for you? I'm not sharing nothing.
This is heaven here.
Absolutely fantastic.
I love you.
Is there a Democrat in here?
It's pretty incredible.
You were sitting with the President of the United States, Donald Trump. That was your first show. Your thoughts on this 7-year period that we've been trying to do TV together?
It's really been the most wonderful journey ever. And in part because we got to do what you and I sat down and talked about in early 2017, when we first kind of mapped out what the show would look like. Quite frankly, your vision for the studio and the theater here was far greater than mine. I mean, I would have been happy if we just left it like it was, and we could have come in with a very small stage and just lived with it as it was. You insisted, nope, we're going to turn this thing into something incredible. And I'll tell you something, every single guest we have that comes who has done the talk show circuit, they've done everything from Leno to Letterman to Kimmel and Fallon, they've done them all. Every person, without an exception, has said, this is the finest production, studio, and theater in the entire country. Bar none. Doesn't matter which network. This is the finest. And the experience that people have. But let me tell you what I think a lot of the magic has been over these 7 years. We have an incredible team, unbelievable, that have acted like family. People get along behind the scenes as much as they do on stage. When people see what appears to be the camaraderie between Trey and Keith and me on stage, what they don't see is that backstage, those folks who are meeting our guests, every guest will write us and say, that was the most wonderful experience. Everyone treated me so wonderfully and kind. And it's true of everyone running a camera. It's true of every single person, whether they're the people that meet the audience and bring them in. Now, they don't get to see the people sitting up in the booth, you know, the ones moving the buttons so much because the guests are kind of isolated. And it's a doggone good thing they can't see those people.
Those guys with moving those buttons.
I love you so much.
They're the only exception. No, they're really great. But through all of it, there's a camaraderie and an esprit de corps among the team that is just the best I've ever worked with. Way better than anything I've experienced in government. Way better than anything I ever experienced in the secular television world, as you can understand. And that's why I think that 7 years, honestly, seems more like 7 months.
My goodness.
It does not feel like I've been here this long. And when people say, tell me about TV, do you enjoy doing that? I said, it sure beats working. Because it's like a joy.
Yeah.
It has been like something I've never gotten where I thought, oh, I got to go to Nashville this week. I got to do another show. I've never, ever felt like that. And it was always an anticipation, the just privilege of working with people who cared what they did. They wanted to be professional. I'll put the production team on this show against anybody in any television facility in the country Nobody has a better production than this show does. Not because of me, because I'm not a production guy. That's not my thing. I can see it and tell you if it is really good. But the people that make that work do it with such a level of perfection and just quality, because they genuinely care about how it's going to come across, not just to have some pride in it, but it's done as unto the Lord. Because we have people here who do this as a mission and a ministry, and not just because there's a check involved.
And now, here's Mike Huckabee.
Buckle up, sit tight. We have a great show.
The real question is why there is this massive double standard in the media.
Kids today in school, they're not getting history.
He's turning into Jill Dayton.
God is always working to free us so that we can help free other people.
And somehow you are a white supremacist? I'm not figuring that one out, Candace.
Who's leading this dance anyway?
I was a preacher's kid growing up, which would explain these leather pants.
But I think of all those thousands and thousands of kids that you are giving life and hope to.
We just keep seeing a need and a problem, and we make it happen, no excuses.
What do you call this outfit anyway?
This is ranch dressing.
Oh, they're freaking out now.
I just want to celebrate another day of living.
Until next time, that's all, folks.